I'm a PC, and that's a Mac, but we'll save the debate for later. Now, I'd like to thank Mr. Matthews. For his very kind comment, but in fact, I didn't think I did that much arm twisting. In fact, I like to think of it as a bit more arm guiding. You see, the administration at Ashbury were always willing to do the right thing for the environment, but what it took was students like myself and yourself standing up saying we'd like to see a little bit more of it. So on that note, I hope that you've guessed by now that my talk is about waste. Now, it might be a bit too early in the morning for a trash talk, but bear with me, please. Now, if you're involved in making waste, please put up your hand. Yeah. Everyone makes waste? Hands out, all right, there you go. Now, unfortunately, when we think of waste, we think two things. I mean, number one, it's inevitable. And number two, it's gross. It's disgusting. Well, I would like to change that entirely. I'd like you to realize that waste is something in the mind. It's a figment of your imagination, because in reality, waste should not exist. And number two, the second thing I'd like you to think about waste is that it's money. You can make money from waste, and there's a certain kind of beauty to it. Now, I'd like to call upon a little bit of a nature lesson. In nature, everything is cyclical. You see, in nature, there are no iPods or skill packages. Everything goes around again and again and again. And that's millions of years before we came around, and we came around, and we're a bit too smart for our own good. We started creating things that last essentially forever. Wonderful things like plastics, which never break down. They build their cars, they build their iPods, they're great, but once we're done with it, they end up in a landfill. And those landfills just keep on getting bigger and bigger and bigger. We've broken the natural cycle. Things aren't going circular. But does it have to be that way? I like to think not. I like to think that we can return to nature and make money from it in the process. Now, before you think I'm crazy, I'd like to tell you that I am not in either of these pictures. But these are good examples of things that we can do to make the world a better place. Let me explain. Now, if that was Jamie Oliver on the left, he would have thought before he tossed out that gigantic wheelbarrow of sugar, what are you going to do with it after the presentation? That's called cradle-to-cradle design. You don't do anything unless you find ways to reuse the end product of it when it's finished. So you see Darth Vader there, who's having an excellent time, might I add, is enjoying a perfectly circular activity. All the water goes in, comes out again, and he's happy. And that cycle can go on next to forever, unless he takes that water with him up to the Death Star. Now in that second picture, you see that fellow making excellent use of waste. I mean, first of all, he's living in his mom's basement, has otherwise wasted space, and look, he's got his disco ball that he was given when he was 10, and he's still listening to his Backstreet Boys and Spice Girls CD. Now what he's doing is he's finding new ways to enjoy things that we've tossed out already. As you can see, there's no iPod in that picture. He's found new ways to add value to the things of the past, the things that we've already tossed out and are finished with. And that's an idea I'd like to build upon. Now, I just got back from Japan. Now, what do you think of when you think Japan? I can read minds, so I heard the person at the back say sushi. Yes, sushi is right. And unfortunately, whenever we eat sushi in Japan, we use a lot of those things to the right. They're called disposable chopsticks. I'm sure you're all very familiar with them. Now in Japan, 24 billion pairs of those are used in a single year. That's a lot of chopsticks. And what happens with those chopsticks is the restaurants have to pay people to take them away. Why? Because those chopsticks are a liability. They're garbage, they want them out of there. There's no purpose to them. But I like to challenge that, because look at this fellow here to the left. Yes, he built that very Canadian-looking canoe entirely out of chopsticks. 7,000 to be exact. Now, if we had a lot more people like him building all those canoes, I'm sure that he would pay you maybe 5 to 10 cents for a pair of chopsticks. So instead of restaurants having to pay to get chopsticks to get rid of them, this guy would be out the front door. He'd be paying you to get your chopsticks so he can build more canoes. And that's the whole idea that I'd like to talk about. It's thinking of waste not as a liability, not as garbage, but as a feedstock, something that we could use to make something else and hopefully make money in the process. Now, fortunately for us, this isn't an entirely new idea. In fact, it's been done before. Now, there's a great company down in the USA called TerraCycle, and they make their products entirely from waste. You see one of their flagship products up there, which is worm poop, essentially rebranded as plant fertilizer, and it works quite well. What they do is they take your discarded Pepsi bottle, fill it with worm fertilizer, put a top on top of it, and then sell it at maybe $5 a piece. And so you see, they're taking something that in itself is entirely garbage and useless, combined it together, rebranded it, and they're making money off of it. In fact, they make so much money, they donate every year $200,000 to charity. Now on the right there, who is watching the Olympics? I'm sure you all like hockey, so I like seeing the hands, so that's good. Now, I'm not sure if all of you realize this, but each of those metals are made from recycled e-waste. So all those CPU monitors, iPods being tossed out, they went into making those metals. But that's silver, copper, and gold. And yes, that is silver and copper and gold. They're all metals that are contained in your e-waste. They're just in small quantities. It takes about 2,000 pounds of e-waste to make one of those metals. But I hope that you're beginning to start to get the picture that we can make good things out of waste. We can make Olympic medals from them. Now, pot bicycle tires as well as seat belts from teenage joyrides. How much are they worth individually? Nothing. Wrong. Those bags there in the bottom left-hand corner sell for $250 a piece. All they've done is taken those bike inner tubes, those seat belts, recombined it, and market it in a way that makes it appealing to you. So you're taking something of zero value, adding value, selling it for $250 a piece. Now that's a winning equation if you do math. Now finally, I was pleased to see that in Ottawa we recently got a green bin program. In Kingston we've got one too. And what makes the program so successful is at the end of the day, somebody is making money from it. That's right. Someone's collecting your garbage, they're turning it into compost, selling it to golf courses and farmers, and they're making money off of your trash. Now after I said that, I hope that you never look at your garbage the same way again. Now I like to relate this back a little bit to personal experience. As was mentioned, I was involved in starting a company about a year ago called the Living Cities Company. And one of our products involves, you guessed it, garbage. You're very smart. So you see in the middle there, those are worm composters. Now, we wanted to make these because we saw the only competing products on the market were priced at $200 a piece. Now, if you're a poor student like myself, or if you're just experimenting because experimenting's good, $200 is a lot of money to put up for a worm composter. So we thought we could one-up the market. We could build our own using waste products. So instead of getting brand new bins for $5 to $10 a piece, we got those bins in the middle for, you guessed it, free. Grocery stores across the nation are tossing these things out like hotcakes because they're waste. They have to pay garbage collectors to take those buckets away. So instead of that, we collected them, add worms, add swells, and boom, $20 a piece. Now that's profit. Another place that I work at is called Yellow Bike Action Kingston, and students and all non-student people like bicycles. Unfortunately, when students tend to graduate, they tend to get a little bit lazy, and they tend to leave the bicycles behind in their landlord's basements. Now, if it wasn't for Yellow Bike Action, all of those bikes would be going directly to the landfill because no one would take the time and effort in order to fix them up. And that's where we come in. We collect these abandoned bicycles, we fix it up, we find a new owner. So the bike is happy, the owner's happy, and of course we're happy because we're getting paid to do it. It's taking that waste that would otherwise end up in the landfill and putting it back into the cycle again, and guess what? We're making money from it. I'm really not liking this map, I'm sorry. Did I kill the battery? Did I make waste? Okay, so what are the benefits of this new system? I identified 4 main benefits. I mean, number 1, if you're making money from waste, you're reducing waste. Less are going to the landfill. Number 2, one of the best countries in the world for recycling is a country without a recycling program. You guessed it, that's China. In fact, in China, collectors will come to your door, they'll pay you for your broken iPods, your magazine stats, and old newspapers. You see, there's a market for waste in China, and this provides incentives for people to go around and collect it. And when you're making money from waste, there's only one way our profits can go up, because unfortunately our populations are rising and people tend to consume more, producing more and more waste. So if we're making money from it, you can predict that those profits can only keep climbing. And finally, if we're using more and more waste, we have a reduced demand for raw resources. And so, just like Jamie Oliver, I've got a dream too. I dream that none of you in this room will say the word garbage ever again. Why? Because as I showed you, garbage is all in your head. The trash is in your mind. If we do things right, there should be no such thing as garbage, because everything should have another use. And since I'm greedy, I have another wish. I wish that some of you in the room will come up with solutions for some of the world's most pressing waste problems. Number 1, top right-hand corner, is e-waste, which we're exporting to developing nations. Number 2, bottom right-hand corner, is nuclear waste. Other than making dirty bombs out of it, we haven't figured out proper ways to finish this stuff off other than burying it in the ground. Top left-hand corner, tires. We like cars, cars run tires. And those tires get tired. And there are thousands of them piling up in a landfill. And finally, last but not least, is the ubiquitous plastic bags. It never breaks down, so we just landfill it. We're smart people. I think that we can come up with something better than that. So thank you for all listening to my presentation. I hope that has not been a waste of your time.